Is BLACKPINK really disbanding, or is this just a rumor? Recently, especially since the beginning of 2026, this topic has been incredibly popular on social media. People everywhere keep talking about the possibility of BLACKPINK disbanding. So why does this possibility come up so often? Today we're going to talk about that. First of all, I want to say something very clearly. As of now, there has been no official announcement that the group is disbanding. In fact, the current situation suggests the exact opposite. The group renewed its contract with YG Entertainment for group activities in 2023. A world tour was announced in 2025, and in 2026 they released their album called Deadline. So technically speaking, there is no finished or disbanded group here. But despite that, why is everyone talking about disbandment? In fact, the answer to this question is not a single event. It's an atmosphere of uncertainty created by several events happening one after another. One of the main reasons is that a group as big as BLACKPINK and also BTS released an album recently and promoted it heavily across many platforms. On the other hand, BLACKPINK, after releasing their album, almost did nothing as a group. And by the way, guys, this Saturday I will share an amazing video about these topics, so don't forget to follow to not miss it. Now let's go back to the first year when the BLACKPINK is disbanding rumors started, which is 2023. This year was actually the most critical turning point for the group, because in 2023, the group's contract with YG Entertainment ended and the members renewed their contracts with YG only for group activities. No contracts were made for their solo careers. This detail may seem small, but it carries a huge meaning for the industry, because in K-pop, if all members of a group remain under the same company, it usually means they will have a long lifespan. But if the solo side separates, this is generally seen as the first signal of possible future separations. And in fact, this is exactly what happened. In a short time, each of the members began to carve out their own path. Jennie, Lisa, and Jisoo established their own agencies, while Rose chose to move forward with a different company. From that point on, the perception that emerged was very clear. There was no longer a single centralized group. There were four separate forces. And this situation became even more apparent over time. Throughout 2024 and 2025, the group was almost completely silent. No major group project was carried out, and the gap extended beyond 3 years. By K-pop standards, this is an incredibly long time, because in this industry, groups usually make at least one comeback per year. When such a long break happens, people naturally start to wonder, is this really just a break, or is it a slow disbandment? During this gap, the members reached the peak of their solo careers. Each of them took part in massive projects in their own fields: music, fashion, acting, global collaborations. A new perception started to form during this time. BLACKPINK no longer looked like a group, but rather like a combination of four global superstars. This perception was also reflected on stage. Even at concerts, some critics began to say that instead of watching a group performance, they were watching four solo artists sharing the same stage. Then the Deadline era arrived, and perhaps this was the thing that fueled the rumors the most. First of all, the name. The word deadline means a final date. Even this alone triggered something in people's minds. But the real impact happened throughout the tour, because the girls were constantly criticized for not being the same as before. There were also other factors that strengthened the disbandment narrative. For example, the duration of the contract was never disclosed. YG only said, "We renewed it," but the length of the contract was never clarified. In the industry, this is often interpreted as a sign of short-term or temporary agreements. Another important issue is the misalignment of schedules. The members' individual projects have grown so much that it is becoming increasingly difficult to find a common time. Lisa's Las Vegas plans, Jennie's fashion and solo projects, Jisoo's acting career, Rose's music work. When all of these come together, a very simple but powerful question emerges. How will these four individuals become active as a group again at the same time? In fact, we already saw this problem in BLACKPINK's latest album. After such a long break, the group made a comeback with only 5 songs, and in many of them, Jisoo had very little presence because she was focused on her acting project. In the music video shoots, album photos, and teasers, the girls didn't look like a group standing together, but rather like their photos had been edited side by side with Photoshop. Because with the solo projects of these 4 members being this intense, it was very difficult to keep them together as a group consistently. The short length of the album, the promotions falling below expectations, and controversies surrounding some of the content, all of these drew criticism. In fact, in some places there were even comments like, maybe it's better if they just stop now. On top of that, trust in YG was shaken. Concert organizations, management criticisms, lack of promotions, these don't directly mean disbandment, but they create a thought in fans' minds. Maybe the members are doing better individually. Lately, you may be seeing the question, is BLACKPINK disbanding everywhere? In fact, even a world-famous magazine recently referred to Jisoo as a former BLACKPINK member. Because right now, there is a a sense of uncertainty among people. While a group as big as BTS released an album and then appeared on TV shows, YouTube channels, and magazines, constantly staying active and continuously producing content related to their album, BLACKPINK, on the other hand, seemed to just put out their album and leave. Naturally, this frustrated fans. People started asking, if such a big group is doing all this, why didn't BLACKPINK do the same? Now I'm asking BLACKPINK fans, what do you think about this process? Do you think BLACKPINK will disband, or did the Deadline album meet your expectations? So far, we've talked about the possibility of the group disbanding. Now let's talk about why the group might not disband. First of all, the group contract is still ongoing. This is a very critical detail because in K-pop, groups that truly disband usually do not renew their group contracts. Also, a new EP was released in 2026. If there were really a plan to disband, making a comeback like this wouldn't make much sense. Besides that, the members' own statements are quite clear. In different interviews, all of them say that the group is continuing, that they are still in contact with each other, and that BLACKPINK is an important part of their lives. At this point, I don't think we can say they are disbanding. Instead, we can say that BLACKPINK is moving away from being a traditional K-pop group. In other words, they are evolving. Just like RM said about their own group in the BTS documentary, no group has ever reached this level before. Even company executives don't really know what to do at this stage. While BTS is currently at the top among boy groups, BLACKPINK is at the top among girl groups. There has never been another K-pop group that has grown and globalized to this extent. That's why whatever BLACKPINK and BTS do ends up shaping the careers of other K-pop groups. So what they are doing is neither right nor wrong, because right now there is no precedent for them. They are learning and finding their path by experiencing it themselves. Right now, the members of BLACKPINK are focusing more on their solo careers, but they are still continuing as BLACKPINK. Maybe from now on, we won't see them as a group that releases an album every year. Maybe they will stay silent for months, even years. But we know that they will always find a way to come back. The truth is, everything that grows changes, and BLACKPINK is no longer a small group. That's exactly why the topic of BLACKPINK is so complex. Because we have two completely opposite pictures in front of us. On one side, there is a structure that looks like it's falling apart, and on the other side, there is still a power that continues to break records. And maybe what makes this story so interesting is exactly this contradiction. People will keep asking whether BLACKPINK is disbanding because, as I mentioned earlier, there are many reasons that support this possibility. But there are also many reasons why they might not disband. Sometimes a group can suddenly disband when we least expect it, and sometimes groups we are sure will disband continue for years. Since we don't know what is being discussed behind closed doors in the industry, it's not possible to say anything with certainty. Especially after Heesung recently left in Hypen, I've learned not to make definitive statements about a group's future anymore. If you ask me, yes, BLACKPINK doesn't really look like a traditional group anymore, and yes, there are many reasons why they could disband, but why would they want to disband at the peak of their careers? They can still manage the group quite well by releasing an album every 2 to 3 years and going on tour. So no, the group is not disbanding right now, and it wouldn't really make sense for them to do so. I'm also curious about your thoughts on this. Don't forget to share what you think with me. Until the next video, take very good care of yourselves. Goodbye.